They hate you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you exist as proof that they've failed. Every time a weak man sees someone with genuine self-control, something inside him breaks, not slowly, violently, because your discipline is a mirror, and they cannot stand what it shows them. Let that sink in. The person who mocks your discipline, who calls your ambition obsessive, who laughs at your early mornings and your refusal to drink, to waste time, to chase empty pleasure, that person isn't neutral. They are at war with you, and most of you have been polite enough, naive enough to not realize you're already in the fight. Self-control is the rarest substance on earth right now. Not intelligence, not talent, not even money. Self-control. And the men who lack it, which is most men, have built an entire social architecture designed to drag you down to their level. They need you to fail. Your success isn't just inconvenient to them, it's existential. If you win while living by a code, then they have no excuse left, and the human ego will burn the world before it admits it has no excuse. So ask yourself something honest. How many people in your life right now are genuinely happy when you succeed? Not, "I told you so," happy. Not, "I always believed in you," happy, which is what weak people say when they want credit for your work. Actually, genuinely, quietly glad that you are winning. I'll tell you the number. It's smaller than you think, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly who they are, exactly why they do what they do, and exactly how to move through the world so that their hatred becomes your fuel rather than your wound. Here is what is at stake, not metaphorically, literally, your life, the version of your life that is possible if you continue developing self-control, versus the version that is waiting for you if you let these people succeed, because they are trying to succeed, and they are trying to pull you into their gravity, and gravity doesn't announce itself. You don't feel yourself sinking. You feel yourself relaxing. You feel yourself becoming more normal. You feel yourself being accepted. And then one day, you are 43 years old, sitting in a car you don't respect, driving to a job that was never your calling, wondering at what exact moment you agreed to this. That is the loser's path, not because of poverty, not because of circumstance, because of one accumulated decision made 10,000 times across 10,000 social interactions. The decision to match the energy of the weakest person in the room rather than hold the line. Weak men are extraordinarily effective at this extraction. They don't take your money. They take your standards. They take your edge. They make your discipline feel like a personality flaw, your ambition feel like arrogance, and your solitude feel like a social failure. And they do this because Nietzsche was correct when he said that the mediocre are not passive. They are aggressive. The herd does not simply tolerate the exceptional. It attempts to consume it. You are being consumed right now, slowly, through every invitation to just relax, every group chat you're included in where the dominant conversation is complaint and distraction, every social event designed not around growth but around the mutual comfort of stagnation. These are not innocent gatherings. They are ceremonies of mediocrity, and your presence at them is not neutral. Your presence is your endorsement. The winner's path is not comfortable. The winner's path is you, looking these dynamics in the face without flinching, understanding the psychology of what is being done to you, and developing the kind of iron self-awareness that transforms social pressure from a trap into information. When someone attacks your discipline, that is data. When someone mocks your consistency, that is data. When someone needs you to fail so they can feel comfortable, that is data. And data, properly used, is power. The question is whether you are paying attention. Now, let's go deeper. Because the surface answer, "they're just jealous," is both true and useless. Jealousy is the label. What you need is the mechanism. You need to understand what is actually happening inside the psychology of a weak man when he encounters your self-control, because when you understand the mechanism, you stop taking it personally. And when you stop taking it personally, you stop reacting. And when you stop reacting, you become completely untouchable. Machiavelli understood something that most men are too sentimental to accept. He understood that human behavior is not primarily driven by virtue or malice in the moral sense. It's driven by interest. Men act in their interest. What appears to be cruelty is often just a man protecting what he has. What appears to be sabotage is often just a man preventing a comparison he cannot survive. When a weak man undermines your discipline, he is not being evil in a cartoon sense. He is being rational in a cowardly sense. Your growth threatens his story about why his life is the way it is, and threatening a man's story is more dangerous than threatening his body. Bodies heal. Narratives, once shattered, leave a man with nothing. So, understand this. Their attack on you is not personal at the level of soul. It is deeply personal at the level of ego. And the ego of a man who has never developed self-control is a terrifyingly fragile thing. It is a fortress built on excuses. And every man who lives with genuine discipline is a battering ram, whether he means to be or not. You do not have to say a word. You do not have to challenge anyone. You simply have to be what you are, consistently, and the weak men around you will feel it as aggression. They will feel it as an accusation, and they will respond accordingly. Here is the first type you need to understand, the underminer. This is the man, could be a friend, could be a family member, could be a colleague, who is consistently, subtly available to point out the ways your discipline might be too much. He is never overtly hostile. He doesn't fight you directly. He is the person who says things like, "You work too hard," and means it as concern, who says, "You're too strict with yourself," and genuinely believes he is helping. He is operating from what dark psychology identifies as projected self-permission, the psychological mechanism by which a person who cannot control himself attempts to grant you permission to also fail because your failure validates his own. The underminer is not stupid. He is unconsciously sophisticated. He has built an entire social personality around making dissolution feel like wisdom. The way you handle the underminer is not confrontation. Confrontation gives him what he needs, which is engagement, which becomes evidence that your discipline has made you aggressive and difficult. The way you handle the underminer is strategic indifference deployed with warmth. You remain friendly. You remain human. You simply stop seeking his approval, stop explaining your choices to him, and stop allowing his assessments of your life to occupy any real estate in your mind. He will eventually recalibrate. They always do, because the underminer doesn't actually want to destroy you. He wants to feel better about himself. And if you refuse to be the mirror that shows him his failure, he will find another mirror. Let him. But there is something more dangerous than the underminer, and most men never see it coming because it arrives wearing the face of support, the comfort dealer. This is the person who loves you, genuinely loves you, but whose love is expressed almost entirely through the offering of relief. Every time you are in a period of difficulty, of discipline, of the necessary discomfort that precedes transformation, the comfort dealer appears with an exit ramp. He appears with the drink, the distraction, the night out, the justification that you deserve a break, and he means it. That's what makes it so lethal. Nietzsche called this kind of love the most dangerous kind. He said that those who love us most are often the most effective at preventing us from becoming what we must become, because they love the current version of us, and they are terrified by what the future version might be, more powerful, yes, but also more separate, more independent, less in need of the comfort they offer. The comfort dealer's greatest fear is that you become someone who doesn't need him. And so, addressed in genuine affection, he becomes an agent of your limitation. You do not abandon the comfort dealer. You love him, but you build an internal architecture that his comfort cannot penetrate when penetration would cost you your edge. You become, in those moments, a closed system, appreciative of the gesture, unmoved by the offer. This is not coldness. This is not sociopathy. This is the very core of what self-control means. The ability to receive something warmly without being controlled by it. Now consider the third type, the one that operates at the group level, the tribe of settled men. This is not one person. This is a social organism. It is a group of men, often men who were once ambitious, once hungry, once capable, who have collectively agreed to a ceiling. They have made peace with a version of life that is survivable rather than exceptional, and they have ritualized that peace. They have built a culture around it. They watch sports together not purely for joy, but as a shared substitute for competition they no longer participate in. They drink together not purely for pleasure, but because the lowering of inhibition is also a temporary lowering of awareness of what they settled for. They mock ambition in others, not because they are terrible people, but because the tribe requires it. A member of the tribe who begins to rise again is a reminder to every other member that the ceiling was a choice, not a fact. And tribes eliminate members who become inconvenient reminders. You may be in a tribe right now. Most men are. And the question you need to sit with is not whether these men are good people. Many of them are. But whether your membership in this tribe is costing you the person you are supposed to become. Machiavelli was precise on this point. The prince who surrounds himself with men who are comfortable is a prince who will become comfortable himself. And comfort is the slow poison of power. The men around you shape your ceiling more than your own effort does, because effort is fueled by expectation, and expectation is largely sourced from your environment. If your environment expects nothing extraordinary from you, you will produce extraordinary effort only through a level of internal will that few human beings can sustain alone indefinitely. This is not a permission slip to discard good people. This is a command to be ruthlessly honest about what your social environment is doing to your trajectory, and to make architectural changes accordingly, quietly, without drama, without the self-important announcement that you are outgrowing people, which is a statement designed more for your ego than for any productive purpose. You simply begin to invest your time differently. You let some connections thin naturally. You introduce friction into the invitations that cost you without giving you anything in return. And you watch carefully to see who reaches across that friction to maintain real connection versus who disappears when you become less available and less entertaining. The ones who stay when you become harder to access, those are your real ones. The ones who only showed up for the you that was easy to be around, unchallenging, available, those were never really there for you. They were there for the role you played in their story. And now that you've stepped out of that role, they have no use for the real you. There is a deeper principle operating underneath all of this, and it comes from the intersection of Machiavelli's pragmatism and Nietzsche's philosophy of power. Both men, in different ways, were describing the same fundamental dynamic, that the world is not organized around justice. It is organized around force, not necessarily physical force, but the force of will, of clarity, of consistent action in the direction of a vision. The man with self-control has this force. The man without it does not. And in a world organized around force, the man without it does not simply accept his position. He attempts to equalize, not by developing force of his own. That is hard, and he has already decided that hard things are not worth doing, but by diminishing yours, by making your force seem antisocial, excessive, abnormal, by building a consensus reality in which your discipline is a pathology and his comfort is wisdom. You have been swimming in this consensus reality your entire life. It is in the movies you watched, which told you that the obsessive man is the villain, and the balanced man who knows what really matters is the hero. It is in the advice of people who love you but who are afraid of your potential. It is in the culture, which has made self-indulgence an identity and discipline a form of psychological damage. This is not an accident. Cultures that normalize dissolution are cultures that produce manageable, predictable, consumable people. Self-controlled people are not manageable. They are not predictable. They cannot be easily manipulated through their appetites because they have mastered their appetites. And systems, institutional and social, are not enthusiastic about people they cannot manage. You are, by virtue of your self-control, operating in opposition to a very large amount of social and cultural pressure. And most men fold under that pressure not because they are weak in some absolute sense, but because they never understood the scale of what was being applied to them. You thought you were just struggling with personal discipline. You were actually resisting a civilizational current. That is not an excuse for failure. It is context for understanding why winning requires something more than motivation. It requires a transformation of identity. Here is the peak truth, the thing underneath everything said in this script, the thing that the Underminer, the comfort dealer, and the tribe of settled men are all unconsciously reacting to, the thing they cannot name but can feel in their bodies when they are near you. Self-controlled people are evidence of a different kind of human being, not better in terms of worth, better in terms of development. And the distance between a developed human being and an undeveloped one is not a gap that can be bridged by argument or goodwill. It is a gap that can only be bridged by the undeveloped person choosing to develop. and most of them will never make that choice, not because they can't, they can, because the pain of development is immediate and the reward is deferred, and they have trained themselves to operate on the logic of immediate reward. You have trained yourself differently, and that training has made you, from their perspective, alien. This is the aha moment. The hatred that weak men have for self-controlled people is not really about you. It is grief. It is the grief of a man who has caught a glimpse of who he could have been, in the mirror of who you are, and cannot bear the seeing. Every attack, every mockery, every subtle undermining is a man in grief, lashing out at the reminder. When you understand this, you stop being angry at them. You stop needing their approval, not because you've trained yourself into cold indifference, but because you genuinely understand that their judgment of you is a statement about their own pain, and not a verdict on your life. And when you are free from needing their judgment, you are free from their power, completely, permanently. No self-help framework, no motivational speech, no tactical strategy to handle difficult people comes close to the liberation available in that single cognitive shift. They are in grief. You are a mirror. You owe them nothing, and you can still, if you choose, be kind. So here is where this lands. You came into this knowing that weak men disliked self-controlled people. You probably thought the answer was something about jealousy, something about insecurity, and those things are true. But what you know now is the architecture underneath, the psychological mechanism, the social dynamics, the civilizational current you are swimming against, and the specific types of people deployed, unconsciously, by that current to pull you back. You know about the Underminer, the comfort dealer, and the tribe of settled men. You know about projected self-permission and the ego's need to destroy what it cannot become. You know that Machiavelli and Nietzsche were not writing philosophy in the abstract. They were describing the operational reality of human social life, the one you live in daily, yet the one most people refuse to see clearly because clarity is uncomfortable, and comfort has been sold to them as a virtue. The action I am leaving you with is not complex. For the next 30 days, I want you to observe. Not change, not announce, not post about. Observe. Watch the people in your life when you make a disciplined choice. Watch who celebrates it, who is neutral, who subtly pushes back. Watch the tribe when one member tries to rise. Watch the comfort dealer appear precisely when you need him least. Watch the Underminer's timing, because his timing is never accidental. He arrives when you are strong and visible. He arrives when your discipline is most apparent and most threatening to the story he has built. Watch all of this with the cold, clear eyes of a man who finally understands the game being played. Not with bitterness, with intelligence. And then, with the data you've gathered from 30 days of clear observation, begin to rebuild your environment intentionally, not dramatically, architecturally, the way a man builds a house, quietly, with precision, stone by stone, with a vision of what he is actually trying to live inside of. The weak men will not change. You do not need them to. You need to change your relationship with their gravity, and you have already begun, because the man who understands a force is no longer fully subject to it. If this cracked something open for you, if for the first time you have language for something you've been feeling for years, subscribe, because this is what we do here. We name the things that have been operating on you without your knowledge, and we hand you the controls. The only people who won't find this channel useful are the ones who prefer the comfort of not knowing. And if that were you, you would have stopped watching a long time ago. You are still here, so am I. And the weak men, they're still out there, still watching, still hoping you'll give up. Don't.